Hello, I'm Grandmaster Miguel Illescas. Welcome to Chess Strategy Lessons. This is a new video series which I have recorded 16 videos, more than 9 hours, and I hope you will enjoy it a lot because it will help you to understand chess much better. Let's start with a fresh game of Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana, and we will see the kind of things that we are going to pay attention on this video series. For example, this is the position after move 13 from Magnus Carlsen playing with the white pieces, and this is Fabiano's to move. Well, for probably you are already looking at the moves, how to play with black. But in this video series, you are going to learn that before considering any move, you have to understand the whole position. We have to have a look at the whole board. So here we will see that material is balanced. Black has two bishops versus bishop and knight. The kings are safe. And there are no immediate threats. So we can start to think that this is a strategical position. So there are no immediate tactics. So we can think in a more general way and to make a long-term plans. In this case, Fabiano, he was, of course, thinking what to do with this bishop. On c8, this is the only piece which is not developed yet. And then, okay, he thought it's a good idea to develop the move bishop g4. Then, okay, he's threatening to take on f3. Of course, the knight cannot really go any interesting place. Maybe knight d4 was possible, but Carlsen played queen e3 with the idea knight e5. And at this point, Caruana played bishop f3. This is one of the things we are going to study very deep in this video series, when to trade a good bishop for a knight. We know that bishops are slightly better, but very often we trade them for knights, and we have to understand, to learn why and when, and how to play afterwards. Look at this. After queen f3, the next move is very typical, e6. When we trade a bishop, in this case the c8 bishop, we try to put pawns on the same square of the missing bishop. So in fact we will not miss it too much. This is what Fabiano did, and the position is completely alright for black. I mean, if we try to analyze in a strategical way, we will see that we have opposite color bishops, and we have a black with a central majority. Black has two central pawns, white has some double pawns, and in general we know that double pawns are not so good. In this case, also we have to focus on the value of the pieces, because we say bishop and knight versus bishop and knight, so it's equal. Is it really? For example, let's compare the knight on b3 with the knight on c6. We will immediately see that the knight on c6 is much better. First of all, because it's controlling 8 squares instead of 6. And at the same time, it's controlling more important squares on the center. And if we talk about the bishops, this is not so obvious. It looks like a white bishop is doing a very good job in the center, controlling both wings. But in fact, look at this. He's hitting a real wall. The g6 pawn is very, very solid. So the activity of the bishop on the king side is really not important. And if we compare with the black bishop, we will see that black has better prospects to make his bishop important, to play a relevant role in the next few moves. So the conclusion is that black is probably slightly better in this position, and that's why Fabiano went for this bishop g4, bishop f3. Okay, if you put computer, you will not learn so much, because you will find that the computer likes the move bishop h6. What is the idea? Well, we want to take on f4, and after g3 we have the move e5. Then we are going to have a fight, tactical fight, but these kind of things will not help you to improve your game. I mean, why Fabiano played bishop g4? It's a practical move, very safe, very solid. There are no complications involved, and he gets a fantastic, easy position to play after this trade, bishop f3. Well, in the game things were not so easy. In this video series we will see also one very fashionable move, the advance of the rook pawn. h4 was played by Magnus Carlsen. This is something that we need to understand very well, when to play h3, when to play h4. And in these games, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, he wants to play h5, and we saw that Caruana, I think he made a mistake here, because he reacted in a very typical way, h5. Okay, if nobody tells you, you will say, okay, this is a standard. I mean, h5 is perfectly fine. But that's not true. I mean, the point is that now white has an easy plan to break on g4 and to destroy black's castle. After g4, black will have to take, and then white will have h5, completely destroying black's coverage for the black king. So it was much better to ignore, in this case, after h4, to continue playing, for example, to try to break on d4, or to try some standard plans, a4, a5, so a5, a4, a3, or even the minority attack, b5, b4. I mean, one idea was, for example, to improve also the queen, to bring the queen to b6, and after h5 we can, for example, already get full equality with d4, or to be even more ambitious with a move like a5, and well, I mean, white is under some pressure on the queen side. Okay, one of the drawbacks also of the move h5, can you guess what else? What is wrong with this move h5? Yes? Did you guess that the square g5 becomes weak? You may say, well, that's not important. Nothing happens. Okay, have a look at the position after move 21. The knight came to g5, and white was ready to launch a very strong attack with g4, and in fact Magnus won a bit later. Okay, so these are the kind of things that we are going to learn in this video series, to go a bit deeper, just not to stay on the surface of the moves, not only what the engine is telling, but to understand really what's going on. Let me show you one more example. This is also from Magnus Carlsen games, his beautiful victory over Levon Aronian. Magnus was playing with the white pieces, and this is also a very strategical position. We see there is no contact between the two armies. This is one of the things that we are going to learn, to identify what kind of position we have on the board. If it is tactical, then we have to calculate. But if it is strategical, then we have to think long term, and we need some patterns, we need some techniques to do this job. It's not so easy. Here, for example, what would you play with the white pieces? It's not so easy. I mean, the minor pieces are perfect. The knight on d3, the knight on f3, even the bishop on e2. It's more or less clear what's going on here. Black is accumulating pieces on the king side. You see the activity of all black pieces on this area, and white in exchange has a nice activity on the queen side. The rook is hitting a target clear weakness, the pawn on c7, but it is very well protected by the bishop on d6. So how to play, how to continue? I like the way Magnus played here. He went, did you find the move? a4, yes. Excellent move. His idea is to continue with a5 and to create immediately some fight on the queen side, just to distract black from his plans on the king side. Well, I mean, if black pass a move like king h8, then a5 is very annoying. The flank is going to be open, a6 is going to be weak. Don't forget the activity of the bishop on a2. So black should have to play here b5. But then these are permanent weaknesses. I mean, the rook may invade to c6, and the square c5 is wonderful for the white knight. So that's why Aronian was kind of forced to play a5, and then we have b5, and we reach a standard position. The weakness on c7 is definitely fixed, and the pawn on d5 will need permanent piece support. You can see it's out of the chain, and Magnus managed to win this game in a very typical and instructive way. We will check it. We will check it, of course, in the course. Okay, so what kind of things we will also learn about the open files. There are several important advice that you need to know if you want to play better this chess at some level. Look at this position. Black to play. You have to make a choice, h6 or h5. We are going to open a window for black, and you have to decide whether to open it with h6 or just to go be a bit more ambitious and go h5. What do you think? Is it easy? Of course it's not easy. And but if you were paying attention to the game Carlsen Caruana, which we were showing as the first example, then you will notice that after h5 we are weakening the square on g5, and one day a knight may land there. You may say, well, this will happen in the future. Yeah, that's a strategy. We are working long term, so we don't pay so much attention to the immediate next move. We are thinking about squares, pieces, what may happen in 10 moves. Okay, in this game, which is my game with white against Francisco Vallejo, he went h5, I went h3, and he played a5. He wants to create some activity. You can see I'm the owner of the only open file, the C file, and this will help you to find what is the best move for white in this position. So can you try to guess how would you play here with white? Yes? Well, after you study this video series, you will immediately, without any doubt, play b5. You will not even consider b takes a5 to take some pawn takes, queen c6. No, don't hesitate. Don't be in a hurry. There is only one open line. White is controlling it, so let's close the other files, so we will enjoy a very comfortable activity. After a4, knight d2, and now the knight finally coming to the critical square g5, and white was able to win a beautiful game after knight g5 and queen c7. Okay, so we will also have a look at classical games. This is Botvinnik Capablanca, and we will learn how to plan according to two main things: pawn structure and back pieces. If we put into the shoes of Jose Raúl Capablanca, it's easy to understand what he was thinking. Well, what is this guy doing here? The knight on a6 needs new prospects, and in fact there are two ideas. One would be to bring the knight to e6, even maybe to g5, to attack on the king side. That would be probably what a modern player would play, because we have learned the lessons that Botvinnik and Capablanca were teaching us almost more than 80 years ago. In the game, Capablanca went knight b8 with another idea, more ambitious. And here, it's very important to focus strategically. What would you play with white? Botvinnik, he was a big expert in this kind of positions with blocked center, semi-blocked, let's say. And his play is almost perfect in this game. After move 16, he went rook a e1 and knight g3, and he wants to play f3 e4. So easy after you see these games. This is a masterpiece by Mikhail Botvinnik. Capablanca went knight a5, and then he went knight b3, and the queen was ready to take on a4. And Botvinnik, he played f3, e4, e5, and he mounted a fantastic attack on the king side. You cannot miss this game, this classical game. We will learn a lot of things, but the most important is that we have to realize that most of the times we can find good plans thinking of what pieces can be improved and where we have to develop our activity. Here Botvinnik, he knew he has 5 pawns versus 4 on the center and queen side, and particularly on the center, these 2 versus 1, they need to be pushed. And this is what he did in the next few moves, and he got a fantastic victory. Well, of course, we will check the games till the end in the course. This is only a sample. And we will include also a lot of tests, a lot of little exercises just to make you practice and develop better your intuition, because sometimes strategy is also about intuition. One of the issues that we will work a lot in this course is about transition to the endgame. We will try to understand when to trade pieces and what kind of endgame can be in our favor. If we have a look at this position, we will see that white has opportunity to take on e5 and trade pieces. He could also play f4 and to gain some space. Okay, we see 7 pawns each, and I don't know why, but you look at this position and you like white pieces. Why do you like it? Because, okay, white, they have both 7 pawns, but these double pawns look very bad. I mean, they look very ugly versus white's 3, because for black it will be almost impossible to create a passed pawn on this wing, because even after b5, if b5 would be one day possible, white can simply wait, and black will need a lot of help to create a passed pawn on the queen side. Okay, but now we have an opportunity to take on e5. Should we take with the bishop, with the knight, or should we play f4? Do you want to think about it? Okay, after this course you will have no doubts. Even in a blitz game you will take knight e5. And why? Because after knight e5 black has only 2 options. If take with the knight, we can simply go for the endgame, the simplest endgame, where we will create a passed pawn on the king side, and finally we will give this 4 versus this 3. Black will have to take our last pawn, and our king will take everything on the queen side. This is a very typical endgame, but we need to identify these opportunities when in the middle game. So this is the way we will use our endgame knowledge to be a better middle game players. Of course, after knight e5, if f takes e5, then we have this check, and we can also go finally for the king's endgame, which is the easiest way to win this position. Okay, we are almost done with this introduction, but let me show you a couple of examples more. One of them is from a game of Paul Keres. This is a game Reshevsky-Keres. And I think it's very interesting because when dealing with all this transition to the endgame, we need to see also some situations which are a bit different. You will see. White played knight e2. And my question is, should we trade knights or should we trade rooks? Do you want to think about it? Yeah, you can pause the video and think about it. And finally, the solution is that we have to avoid any change and come back with the knight, like Paul Keres did. Look at this. If we trade pieces, then the game is going to be a draw. This is completely equal. And the same can be said if we play knight c1, sorry, rook c1, knight c1. We can say, yes, the knight on d4 is beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's doing really nothing. I mean, it's not threatening any critical point, and the game will be equal. In fact, it's already equal. What happens after knight c6? Now we have a different situation. Black is threatening the pawn on b4. The next move is kind of forced, rook b1. And then we play rook d8, and we can see that now the king is in danger. We have to move the king. And look at the position. The knights, black knights are better than opponent because they control 8 squares and white knights only 6. They are on the 3rd rank. And at the same time, we can see that they are doing an aggressive job. They are attacking some weaknesses of the opponent. What about the rooks? The rook on b1 is doing a passive task, protecting pawn. The rook on d8 is very active on the center. In the game, Keres played f5, gaining some influence on the center, and he won in 57 moves. Brilliant masterpiece, positional masterpiece. It's not so easy to understand that black is better here, but, well, I mean, look at the activity. You can even count how many squares each side is controlling, and most important, what are the critical squares if you look at the center, you will see that black is compact, doing a fantastic job, and this is always very, very important. A clear weakness. But if we don't play knight c6, all this would escape to our attention, and we would spoil a very good opportunity to press and finally win the game like Paul Keres did. So it's not always so simple to trade pieces. Sometimes we have to avoid it, and in this video series we will learn through many examples. We will learn when to trade and when not. Okay, this is another game. This brings me very good memories. When I was young, 1989, and I was playing black with Vasily Smyslov, world champion, a great player. And I was really impressed in this game how easy. Smyslov, he was 67, and he was avoiding all the time. He was avoiding complications. He was trying to find a very soft way to play, very simple. And in fact, after I played 3 games with him, I understood that he had this fantastic touch to find little moves that later, for example, players like Karpov managed to also to do in a fantastic way. Okay, this is the position I want you to make a decision. Should white trade queens, queen takes c6, or should white avoid and move the queen away, or even to play rook e1 and to provoke the opponent to take on e3 so we can undouble pawns. What to play? Queen d3, queen d2, queen e6, rook e1. What would be your choice? If we take on e6, bear in mind that black can take with the pawn, so this d5 will not be isolated anymore. These are difficult decisions, but for Smyslov it was so easy, you know. He took on e6, and now one of the little moves typical of Vasily Smyslov. Look, rook d2. Now he's ready to double on the c line, e line, or d line, depending on what black is gonna do. And well, after a few moves, I was feeling the pressure of the old grandmaster. I played king f7, and how to play here with white. You will learn this kind of strategy in this video series to improve your position, to use all your trumps. Here is the move g4. White is gaining space, finally bringing the king to g3, and well, Smyslov, he beat me in a fantastic game, which I recommend you to study carefully in this video series. Okay, there are many other things that I would like to show you. Let me just end this presentation with one of these positions when we are thinking about transition to the endgame. This was my game with Ulf Andersson. I was playing with the black pieces. And well, I thought, okay, you know, Ulf was very solid already at that time, 1998. He was rock solid. And I thought, okay, probably now very soon we will trade some few more pieces, change rooks on the open files, rook d1. I was expecting something like rook d1. Okay, then we will take, and we will make a draw, rook d8, and shake hands. But Ulf Andersson was so happy in this position. I started to get a bit worried, you know. And his move was really strong. Also, before, he was gaining space on the queen side and posing some practical problems. You see, if now I would play knight c4, which looks natural, I'm going to be slightly worse after knight e5. My bishop is vulnerable. The position is not lost, of course. This is very playable. But white is slightly better because the pawn on c6 is a bit weak. And also the bishop is better than the knight when there are pawns on both wings. This was already Capablanca teaching in his Chess Fundamentals, a book which, if you didn't read, you should. Okay, so I played after b4, knight cd7. And here I was impressed by his next move. Can you try to think how would you play with white? Well, this was a grandmaster touch. I mean, Ulf Andersson is known to be one of the best endgame players in the history of our game. And well, I was expecting something like b5. Then I was ready to play this position, take, and knight c5. And okay, my next move is going to be b6, and my knight is perfect. So it compensates the power of the bishop. And this would be probably easy draw for black. What else? After knight cd7, okay, if white goes rook fd1, then okay, we can answer knight b6 and continue the idea to trade rooks and to equalize completely. And some of you may be thinking to play a4. This was interesting. But again, after knight b6, black is ready to jump to d5. And if b5, then we can again take and play rook d7. Maybe white is slightly better here, but very soon after rook d8 or knight d5, the game is going to be completely equal. What happened in the game? What did Andersson play? Yes, you found it. Rook c2. Delicate game, delicate move like Smyslov in his game, rook d2. So we are going to see examples to connect ideas, and later for you it will be not so difficult to find these grandmaster moves in your own games. This game is fantastic. You have to watch it till the end because, well, first because I won. I managed to beat Andersson this slightly worse position. Of course, I had a very good day. And secondly, because it poses a lot of strategical challenge, how to bring this d8 rook, sorry, h8 rook into the game. This is one of the things that you will learn in this video series. I hope you will enjoy it a lot, and it will make you for sure a better player. See you in the videos. Bye bye.